Hey everyone, you're listening to an episode of The Artist Corner featuring our artist of the month, Andy Manoloff, who is the creator behind Doggiedoc Designs, a custom action figure specialty company. Andy creates miniature replicas of props and accessories from movie, TV, and film. And most of his work is done in 1/6 scale. In this interview, Andy talks about how he got started. He gives a lot of advice to anyone who wants to customize action figures and talks about his favorite projects. He is available on Facebook and Instagram, and those links are in the show notes. We hope you enjoy this show, available on YouTube and YouTube Podcast. All right, here we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Artist of the Month. We have Sully here. We have Andy from Doggiedoc Designs, and we are going to get to know him and his work today. So, Andy, tell us about yourself. Tell us about your art.
Okay. So, I do 1/6 scale figure work. Started kind of doing mostly accessories, but currently moving more into the realm of full figure sets. And I do this full time as a job. I
That's perfect. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've been through kind of like a journey with it, right? It started off more as a hobby, I'm assuming.
Yeah. So I actually, I'm surprised to find out that most people don't understand where my business name comes from, Doggiedoc Designs. So I am originally a veterinarian.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
It always makes me laugh when people say, "Whoa!" Now it makes sense where that kind of what seems like unrelated name comes from. So yeah, I was a veterinarian for 12 years, and I don't know, maybe 8-9 years into being a vet, I sort of discovered this world. I probably discovered it before that, but in terms of actually doing work, it was maybe 7-8 years into my vet career, and I was just doing it as a fun sort of little hobby. You know, I can make stuff because when I was younger, I was a drawer, I was a painter, I was a model builder, I did all those things, and I kind of found this neat avenue to do things I did when I was a kid as an adult. And it was a neat hobby. It was really fun. I could put some skills to work that I had not been able to use in many, many years. But I feel like I was pretty good at it, and people were really happy with the sort of stuff I did. And so making a few things turned into making a lot of things, and that turned into, hey, I think I can do this as a job. Mm-hmm. And as awesome as being a vet is, it's very stressful. So getting away from that was hard to do, but also easy to do. Like, it was a hard decision, but it was something that I think made a lot of sense for me.
That's amazing, and that's a great role into a different type of career path. So I have a question. Now, you do some amazing sets, and you do this as a job full time. Where do you come up with the ideas for the stuff you're going to make? Because some of it's obscure, and some of it's like stuff that totally out of my realm in the military action figure world. This is something that's totally cool.
Yeah. So the easiest way to put it is I make things that I'm a fan of. So pretty much everything that you see in a set is something that was somewhat meaningful in some way, shape, or form to me growing up as a kid, or even more adult years. But as you see, most of my sets are certainly not anything from the last 5 or 10 years. You know, we're talking 20, 30, 40 years ago. I do have to give a little credit where credit is due. I have sort of a project partner. His name is John Anderson, and he sort of works with me behind the scenes. He doesn't do much of the art. That's all me. But he is a film editor by trade, and so he's of that sort of mind. And so he and I collaborate on the ideas, and we kind of discuss. We both have similar tastes. We grew up at the same time. We're a similar age, so that all fits and works together. And he and I kind of talk, and he has a good pulse on the community, as do I, and we try to figure out, well, what do we like is the number one criteria. We have to be a fan of it. And then once we decide, hey, we want this in our own collection, we try to sort of debate, okay, do we think there'll be enough interest to make it make sense for the rest of the community? Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. So, question, how do you come up with, and what you do essentially, you build entire figure kits. So like people most of the time they go to a store like ours and they purchase a mint box, right? And everything comes with that figure and it's all set. It's one figure set. And you're actually custom making that entire set in small batches.
Everything, yeah. So what we're doing is, like you said, full figure sets, and the idea is you're going to receive something as if you had went to Sideshow or whatever and bought it, and it's a full set. It's finished, it's clothed, it's painted, it's got the fun accessories, etc. But it's all custom made because we're choosing things that companies, for the most part, aren't going to do. And again, from the era and the time frame that has some meaning to me, that nostalgia growing up, whatever it is. So yeah, people get a fully finished set, but most, if not all of it, is completely custom made, from the tailor making the outfit to me making the accessories and parts of the figure that are necessary, like shoes and buttons and little things like that. I have sculptors who help me do the head sculpts because that's a little bit beyond my own skill level and sort of my area of expertise. Painters, etc. Again, I paint most of my accessories and things I make, or I paint them all. But then I have painters who do the head sculpts for me because that's, again, a little bit out of my own realm. So, yeah, full sets. I used to do a lot of accessory sets as well because that was sort of where my purview is I'm really good at making stuff, little guns and things for the movies and whatever. And so that naturally made a lot of sense with full figures because I can be the guy that takes care of all that, and then I organize and help, utilize the talents of other artists to help round out the full set.
So another question that leads right into that is, how do you choose set size? Like, how do you choose the number of sets you're going to make?
Sure. So it's boring. It's mostly out of practicality. If I could do 100, I'd do 100,
sure.
But I can't. I don't know if I'd want to.
Right.
When I'm doing a set of, I'm trying to think of the largest figure set I ever was a part of, which wasn't my own. I was doing the accessories for it, was the R.J. McCready set, if you had seen that. Done by an artist named Kay June, and I got to do all the accessories for that, and we made 45 or something of those, and that's a relatively large run in the custom world. And once you're on piece number 40 of 45, you feel like you're about ready to move on to the next project. So my own run sizes are usually essentially 20 to 25, mostly, again, practicality and sanity. But as you've seen, most of my sets are double sets. So there's two figures of some way, shape, or form in almost every set I've done, except for Ralphie so far. So the painter, that means 50 heads, on average for the head sculpt painter. And that starts to get a little bit beyond his comfort level. And then again, I don't want to necessarily do 30 or 40 or 50 pieces of whatever. So it's a little bit of practicality, and everybody likes rarity, I guess, when it comes to collecting.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, man. Especially in the collector world. So, do you have consistent customers that buy everything that you produce?
I do have I have a few. I have at least one I can think of that seems to want to get everything I make, which is awesome. I love the support. Become pretty good friends with that particular person. And then I've got several people who clearly are interested in what I do, and they're more likely than not to get something that I do, but they may skip this one or that one just because it doesn't, fit in their actual collection. There's some people that collect everything from an artist because they want that artist, even if the subject matter isn't necessarily their own, preference. But I don't think I have too many of those people.
Wow. So how long does a typical set take you to make? So if you were to make one unit of something, how long would that take you from start to finish?
So that's a little hard to answer because I don't do that outside of the prototype, right? So once I have a set that's going to be sold, I'm making 20 of everything at a time because making things in a run is practical
Right.
and makes sense, right? So,
Yep.
if I had to boil it down, I mean, the prototypes of a given set might take me 4 to 6 months to sort of develop and go from idea to completion. Most of the time, I'm doing prototype development in the background while I'm doing other stuff. So, for example, the Lone Star and Barf, that Spaceball set that's coming out. Thank you. I've been working on that
Freaking
for
awesome.
like
Yeah, man.
9 months in terms of the run. And all during that time, I've been working on the next Spaceballs prototypes, which have been announced and teased already, which is Dark Helmet and Yogurt. Yeah, exactly. I'm really excited to show those ones, which you'll start seeing photos and stuff in the next couple of weeks, actually.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the teaser photo you did, and
Yeah.
I'm super stoked to see that stuff. So, how do you choose the accessories, say, for that set?
Yeah, I mean, with Spaceballs, it was hard. There were so many. We had to not choose stuff, you know. But in general, the answer to that question for any given set is the stuff that I think is sort of helps make that character, right? So Barf in Spaceballs, he Barf himself, and I keep turning around. Hopefully you can see him. He's all on the shelf back there. He doesn't actually have or mess around with too much stuff specifically throughout the whole movie. But the big things are, the movie opens and he's dancing around eating out of his dog food bowl. Got to include that. He's offering Lone Star a milk bone. It's got to include the milk bone box and the milk bone. He gets his foot smashed later by the giant yogurt statue. That I thought was just a fun one to include. Are people going to display it like that? Probably not, because when that happens, he's making a whole different face. It wouldn't make sense with the face we used. But why not include that, Lone Star is similar. He actually doesn't have a whole lot of real specific stuff outside of his saber. So you had to include the saber. And then, the funny scene with Princess Vespa and her luggage and take only what you need, and he pulls out the giant hairdryer. And we just thought, how funny, because I'm usually making everything really small, and the hairdryer in the movie is gigantic.
Right.
And as an accessory,
Gigantic.
it is pretty gigantic. So that's the prototype hairdryer right there.
Awesome.
So sorry about the bright light. I don't know if it's going to appear that way. Yeah.
Oh, that's okay, man.
No,
Totally
we can
fine.
see it, yeah.
Awesome.
I'm in a forest, so it's okay. So on your accessories, you've kind of taken them to the next level as far as like a lot of people make stuff. Let's just say like a lightsaber, right? So you made a Schwartz ring that lights up. I mean, you've really taken it to the next level. How do you see yourself improving with each iteration of your figures you do?
Yeah. So the idea I try to go with is, number one, I want to include every little detail that's there. So using as an example. Yeah. A set, I believe you have the ET set.
I do, the ET
the
set.
bike.
Yep.
I mean, that's to me essentially that's the ultimate
Freaking
accessory,
amazing.
if you even want to call it an accessory. I think it's almost a character, unto itself. But the number of screenshots and zoom in, close-ups and going on the replica prop forums and all the research that I could do, to me, when I'm developing accessories, it's all about including things that maybe people didn't even know were there, Not an accessory, but using Ralphie for an example, in our research, we realized that the soles of the feet of his bunny suit are sewn on backwards. And we're not sure if that was an accident in real production or if they did that on purpose.
Right.
But in that research, we were like, well, we have to include that because there's a scene in the movie where he turns around, he runs up the stairs, he puts his foot up, and you can see that sole's on backwards.
Wow.
So we made sure to include that, even though he's going to be standing there and you'll never see it. You know what I mean? The other thing for me is it's all about trying to utilize like multimedia, if you will. With 3D printers nowadays, and if you can 3D model, you could 3D model an entire, let's say, lightsaber and a hand and just print it all as one piece. But that's not going to look anything like the one I did, which, by the way, doesn't actually light up. I did some light up tests, but what I ended up doing was sort of faking it, and by the way I constructed it in normal light, it looks like it's lit up. But the point is, that lightsaber and the saber hand and everything, it's a a stock fist with a 3D printed little ring, and then a rod coming through it, and then a clear dyed rod over the top of it, so that the white inside makes the orange outside look like it's glowing from the inside. So it's all about using whatever materials might be necessary, not just relying on these awesome 3D printers and having this item that you just paint and it kind of looks like it from a distance, but when you look at it up close, you're like, well, this is a painted piece of resin. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah, your stuff photographs very, very well. I mean, you would almost say that it looks like the actual movie.
Yeah. Another example is like I've started doing a lot of shoes and boots that are designed to have real laces put into them.
Super cool.
I sort of think of it like in movies where you have judicious use of CGI amongst practical, then it blends a lot better. Here, of course, I'm using a lot of 3D printing, but if you use the right other stuff in photos and even in hand, it can all of a sudden look like, well, that's just a real shoe. And
that's a real shoe. Yeah. That's next level stuff, dude. That's like attention to detail, like hyper detail.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome, dude. It's awesome.
So, Andy, in addition to your regular, pieces, sets that you guys are creating, do you do commission as well, like commission pieces for people?
I do. I've been doing a lot less over the last year or so because I have had to do less because I don't have time to do what I'm doing.
Right.
Yeah.
So when it comes to individual people, I have and will do those, but they're a lot more rare now because I just don't have the time, because it takes me the same time to model and develop and produce just one as it does to produce the first of then a run of something for a group.
Right.
I'm more likely to work with like an artist who's producing a full set than, because at least the time I'm taking leads to a full set versus that one person, which I don't have any problem with. But then I also have to charge one person way more than the spread of a group, So, like, for example, I was doing the McCready set with K. June. I'm doing some stuff with Chuen Kingman, Johnny. I don't know if you know who he is. So, there are artists who do full figure sets themselves, but they don't do the accessory part, so they look for someone like me to help them with that.
That's awesome. So you have a group of people that you work with on a consistent basis for projects that are coming up.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, some of that's out of necessity because my time right now is just spread too thin.
Yeah. I mean, it's a full-time job doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
How many sets can you produce in 1 year? So when you produce like the Spaceball set, could you...
Yeah, so right now, if I've only been doing the full sets where E.T. was the very first one I ever did. Yep. And I'm trying to remember, I think I ended up sending that one out at the very end of 2021, if I'm not mistaken, / beginning of 2022. But right now I'm probably getting through 2 full sets a year and then part of one. Like last year I had 3 pre-orders, which was a lot, but the one pre-order, which was Spaceballs or whatever, bled into this year as production. Right. So this year the plan is to ship Spaceballs, the first set, here in like a week or 2. I was literally laser cutting foam before I got on the camera. I had to turn the laser off, it's too loud. The likelihood of shipping the second set at the end of this year is probably small, only because the tailor, Siberian Custom Studios, Alex Filipov, awesome, by the way. The shipping and the back and forth between here and Russia is not fast at all. So, that pre-order will come up soon, but in terms of shipping, I'm not sure if that's going to happen before the end of this year. So this will be one of the drier years, if you want to put it that way, but the production's all happening throughout the year. Just the finalization might bleed into the beginning of next year.
Gotcha. So roughly, you can produce roughly 1 figure set per year for sure, and then you bleed into the next year. Yeah. You already have your next Spaceballs that you're going to do. Do you already have another project that you're currently...
Yeah, so we actually have a list.
Oh boy.
We've got a list of sort of plans and possibilities, and some of the things on there are kind of outlandish. And the next one after Spaceballs Set 2 has been, again, announced and teased, so it's not a huge surprise. That's Big. So Big with Tom Hanks and the Zoltar machine and everything.
Oh, wow.
So that one will be fun. I know a lot of people are looking forward to the machine more than more than a figure. That's obviously right up my alley, but we have some fun plans for the figure itself. And then after that, another one we teased was Short Round from Indiana Jones. I can't believe I didn't think of that earlier. Short Round is in huge demand. There's not really been any figure produced that I know of. And it's difficult, figures like Elliot with kid bodies, and it's hard to find all that stuff. The lengths I went to get bodies for Elliot, by the way.
I'll step into that. Yeah.
What's that?
I remember you got some bodies for me.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, you helped me out
form.
with some of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I ended up buying, I think, every Star Ace kid body that existed at that time, because they don't make them anymore. At least,
nope.
Yeah, they don't make them anymore. So, anyway, I forget what we were talking about.
That's okay. So yeah, your next coming project. So you got the next year planned. So that's awesome.
Oh, I probably could realistically say I have the next 2 or 3 years planned. It just depends on what we put first, or because for example, we had certain plans, and then when Ralphie came to mind, I got all excited about that. So we actually kind of plopped him in earlier than was planned. Mm-hmm. So Big is next for sure, and then after Big, I really do want to do Short Round, but I'm not sure if something else might jump in. We'll have to wait and see.
Sure. So my next question: when you produce a set and you sell, say, 25 units? Okay.
Yep.
What's the typical price point somebody would get into with one of your sets?
So I feel like I've been doing really good at that in relation to the general custom market, particularly because we do double sets. I mean, more or less.
2 figures, yeah.
I don't know if I would even consider the Elliot set a double set. I mean,
for sure.
was his own figure,
Light up ET, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So my sets have fallen right in the $2,500 range. Mm-hmm. Now, 2 figures, that's $1,250 a figure.
Yep.
If you go to get a single figure set from most custom artists, it's going to cost you that much or more for a single one. So I feel like where I'm at with that price point, I mean, certainly the cost of figures and producing them has gone up since I got into the custom market years and years ago. But that's just the nature of the world.
Yep, for sure.
So I'm trying to keep it there with, smart use of how I utilize my own talents and what artists I use and how we go about these things. But I can't say things won't change either lower or higher. That price is not some set number I use. It's based off of what it takes me to produce them.
Absolutely.
So if a set's more complicated and I have to do X, Y, and Z thing here that I didn't have to do for this set, then that price may end up going up.
Yep.
So yeah, that's kind of where I am currently. Yeah.
Yep, and that's totally, in my opinion, I think that people don't know the backstory of what it takes to actually create something like this from ground up, and the amount of work that you put in and time, energy, and effort to get it right. I mean, it's very, very valuable. As you progress, you get better, and you get quicker because you've made the mistakes before. Yep. So, and the use of tech, obviously. Yeah.
And I think, some of the things people don't think about, especially when I'm trying to send you something that is literally complete, and I just alluded to it earlier, is I'm laser cutting foam right now.
Yep.
So that you have these so there's the cost of those things, the boxes that I use to send them in so that you have something nice, the actual use of the machines that it takes to do, those are all factors that I don't think a lot of people think about. They just think, oh, what did the outfit cost? What did the sculptor charge you, etc.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's not all that's involved.
Totally. And I think you're totally right.
Yeah, and counting in your prep time, your prototype time, your design, your brainstorming. You're saying it's about 9 months that you've been working on this one set. I mean, that people don't see that or think about that, but that definitely is included in all of it.
And that's another thing, if you don't mind, that me mentioning is, one thing I do not do, and I've never done, is I never ask people to pay any money until I have a full finished version of what you're going to buy for you to see.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not criticizing projects out there, but a lot of people who run projects that aren't like, they're collectors who want an outfit run, so they go and get Tory Box to do it or whatever. They take a deposit, you pay that deposit, then they use that money to fund the prototype, etc. And I understand why that works that way. These full sets being produced as a product that you're going to buy and it's finished and it's ready to go, I fund, with the way I run my stuff, the entire production of the first one, so that in that, the outfit, paying the sculptor, my own time and, materials to make the accessories and the packaging and all that stuff. I fund all that myself, through the way I run my business, hopefully very, properly and efficiently.
Right.
Sure.
So that when you're going to plunk down some money to secure your set, this is what you're going to get.
That's awesome.
So I pride myself on that, and I think that's a pretty neat thing that, I think I would like to see a little bit more of in the hobby in general.
Yep, for sure. So, question, what is your favorite project that you've done so far?
Oh, man, that's hard.
It is hard. I know which one mine is.
Every time we do a new set, it's like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever, and then I get a little bit annoyed with it because I've been working on it for 9 months or a year
Right.
or whatever.
Sure.
It's hard not to go back to ET, though.
Seriously, like if people don't, we're going to show some pictures when we
Sure.
do the teasers and stuff like that. But the ET set, bar none, is one of my childhood favorite things ever. I still
That's
go
awesome
to
to hear.
Universal Studios and I ride the ET
Oh,
ride.
yeah. I love that ride.
I love that ride.
Before
But
it
yeah,
all turned into screens and, motion machines or whatever.
oh, it's so good, right? It's classic.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, but
I mean, I don't know. It's the first one I did, so that kind of holds a special little place in terms of full set. Obviously, I've done a lot of stuff before ET, but and just I picked a doozy to start with. I mean, because
seriously,
the figure itself being a kid and all the custom weirdness that comes along with that, making a full secondary figure of ET as posable as we could make him. The bike is from the ground up production. I mean, none of that is stock anything,
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have to say as fun and neat as all these new ones are, and every idea I get more and more excited about, it's hard not to go back to ET for sure.
Totally. And this leads into another question: is would you ever considering doing a rerun of something?
The quick and dirty answer is no. There is a couple of reasons. Number one, I know what it took to make the first one. Let's use ET as an example. I don't want to do that again. I mean, those bites were something else, and the challenges. It's one thing to make a prototype, but then you run into all these issues you had no idea were present when you do the full run.
Yes.
Working with metal like this, the metal shrinks and bends in different ways, and so things didn't necessarily fit together perfectly, and then I had to adjust every single one so that it worked compared to the last one, So that's a big part of it is kind of, I did it and I went through it, and going through it again, I don't know if I could do that. There's also a pretty, I don't know what the right word would be, but there's a pretty negative connotation amongst collectors who collect something that is, it's a run of 25. I coveted one of those.
Oh, Hot Toys.
And then you add to the, exactly, with their 2.0s and stuff like that, but you add to the run, and all of a sudden the collectors who, some of them got into it because of the rarity, they get frustrated. I don't necessarily hold that view myself, because I made this not to have one of something that only a few people have, but because I wanted it in my collection.
Right.
So if you ask me, I want as many people to have what I make as I could possibly get.
Right.
I want to get as many out there as I can, but I also understand that that's not necessarily the view held by everybody else, and so making a second run can be looked at pretty negatively, down the line.
For sure. And then you got to rebuy all the parts, and then you got to do,
again, that just gets back into the, I know what it took to make it, and I got to do all that again. I don't think so,
Yeah. So you were able to leave your veterinarian job and do this full time. So now it's full time for you. Is it still enjoyable? Is it still as enjoyable as it was when it was just a hobby?
Oh yeah, I mean definitely, because the things I stress about in the hobby, I'll call it the hobby. Yes, it's my job, but I still understand as a community of collectors, it's a hobby for the majority of people.
Right.
The things I stress about making stuff now, I stressed about when I was doing it as a hobby. You know what I mean?
Right.
Are people going to be happy with this? Did I do it good enough? Oh my God, do I see some print lines here? Oh, I got to reprint this, etc. All that stuff I thought about before. I just have more of it to think about now. So it's, you know what I mean? It's not... I had a couple people when I was first considering making a switch, and I was, talking to friends and family and getting advice. That was one of the things that came up a lot is you're talking about wanting to switch because you love it so much, but are you going to love it so much when it's a job?
Right.
Yep.
And I got it. I got what they were saying, but at the same time, I always thought, yeah, why wouldn't I,
Yeah.
And so here I am doing it, and I still love it, and yes, I'm still stressed for certain reasons, but those aren't any different than when I was doing it before.
Yep.
So
That's
I'm
awesome.
having a ball.
That's good. That's good to hear.
Fantastic.
I mean, you get to work with and create, your replicas of things that you love from your childhood, and what's better than that?
Yeah, and I mean, one thing we haven't touched on yet is another thing I've gotten the opportunity to do is do licensed commercial work with other actual
I saw that.
companies.
Yep.
Working with other artists who are also doing unlicensed work like I am is awesome. But when you get a call from Trick or Treat Studios and they say, "Hey, we would like you to work on some stuff for us," like
My
head
Boom.
explodes.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the coolest thing in the world. And I have a couple of, I'm going to have my name on some items that are licensed,
Yeah,
Halloween
man.
1978. Like
Woohoo!
I couldn't, that's the coolest thing in the world. So, and those opportunities are still coming, coming and going as I'm doing my custom work. A lot of people don't realize in the background I've done multiple projects for Trick or Treat Studios, a few things for Exo6, who does all the Star Trek
Yep.
figures
Star
now.
Trek. Yep.
So, and the reason people don't really hear too much about it is I can't talk about it. When you're doing stuff that's not released, they don't want you saying anything. So
Yep.
I'm allowed to say I'm doing stuff, but beyond that, I got to be quiet.
That's pretty fantastic. I mean, those are some big names in the action figure world, and I
Yeah.
think your name's been being thrown around more and more and more with these
I hope so.
studios, and that's a fantastic thing. It's absolutely
Yeah,
fantastic.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you about advice. What advice would you give to someone who's just starting out in this, just starting out wanting to create their own accessories, or, just try their hand at something like this? What would you say to them?
All right. So the sort of lovey-dovey advice I would give is don't be afraid to try.
Right.
Do it.
Right.
The reason this all started was I had been all over the forums, Sideshow Freaks, which is gone now. R.I.P. Right? And somebody had mentioned Danny DeVito, Penguin from Batman Returns, and was like, "Hey, the umbrellas would be cool. Who anyone out there who thinks I could do that?" And I happened to come across that thread, and I was like, "I think I could do that." And so I started a thread about it, and I had nothing to use. I didn't have anything made. I just started a thread and said, "Hey, I think I can do this. Would you guys be interested?" And then I started developing a prototype with the skills at the moment that I had. So that sort of principled advice is don't be afraid to just give it a shot. My practical advice is learn 3D modeling and printing. I mean, it is the backbone of the industry, in my opinion, at this point. I mean, the artists themselves are the backbone, let's be real. But in terms of production, prototyping, being able to work remotely from somewhere that like when I work for Trick or Treat Studios, it's based in California. But I do my 3D models and just email them to the company, and so, but point being is when I first started doing my custom stuff, I was fabricating everything. When I made the umbrellas, I made them out of dowel rods and metal piano wire and cloth from the fabric store, and I molded in Sculpey and then cast them in resin and silicone molds, all that stuff. And then when I decided I wanted to try a different accessory, which is the Batman vs Superman Kryptonite Spear, because Hot Toys released their first version of that figure without one, I was like, I can't make this practically in any feasible way or any sort of proficient way. So I started to investigate 3D modeling programs, and then from there I just took off. And once I found a program I could at least mess around with, I used it to make the vast majority of what I needed to make. And then when those modeling programs became limiting, I said, well, let's check out ZBrush, because I can do. I was using modeling programs that were good for hard surface things, straight objects, guns, things like that. And I couldn't do things like shoes or animals or clothing related items, anything. So I started to mess around with ZBrush, and all the modeling programs I've done, I'm self-taught with a lot of help from other artists. Again, another shout out to Sean Dabbs, if you've ever heard of him. He's a sculptor that does a lot of work for Exo6 and a lot of other companies, but he has given me so much advice on 3D modeling and sculpting. So thank you to him. But yeah, my practical advice is learn that.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
advice.
Especially for prototyping. I mean, yeah. cuts the time down by, I would say, 100%.
And you have a lot of people who sit there and say, digital sculpting, that's cheating compared to practical sculpting. And if you want to believe that, believe what you want. But I can't hop on the computer and do a head sculpt. I just can't. I mean, I have the general knowledge of anatomy and what a human face looks like, but beyond that, pushing those pixels around is not very easy. But I've gotten good with practice at making other things like shoes and whatever. So yeah, people who say it's cheating, that's crazy.
Yeah. Why would you not use something that could be that beneficial to you in your process? I mean, that's silly.
Exactly. I mean, you make a head sculpt and you realize this little thing's wrong. You don't have to tear half the clay off the face. You just go in and edit what your file right there, and
right.
It just makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. So that segues in. Do you have any, with this invention of social media, especially for what you do? That's how you get your work out there to the people to see. Do you have any haters right now?
I mean, if I do, I don't really know.
That's good. That's good.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anybody, bad mouthing me, messaging me funky stuff, anything like that.
That's good.
I have one guy. If you want me to, there's one guy that I don't know if you want me to name names.
No, don't have to name names.
You don't have to name names.
But, there's a guy out there that seems to think I have a vendetta for him. We had similar projects that started years and years ago. E.T. So if he watches it, he's gonna know who he is. I don't understand why, if he thinks that, he thinks that. I've had a lot of criticism for him because I don't think he runs what he does very well at all.
Yeah.
But if you sort of forced me into saying something, maybe somebody like that. But otherwise, if I've got people who aren't a fan of me, I don't really know about it.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That can be hard in like artist communities like this, where sometimes that just happens by happenstance. Two people totally unrelated have similar ideas, right? And come up with something similar.
Exactly.
And that can be frustrating, but I mean,
and that leads into an opinion I've always tried to put out there. And I told people that I didn't necessarily hold this opinion early on, and I wish I would have. I feel like I was wrong before. But in the custom world, there's this weird idea that if you're the first person to do something, you somehow own it.
Right.
And nobody else can do it. And if you do it, you're somehow copying or taking away from the original artist. You're disrespecting them. And I did hold that feeling early on. I would do something, and then a week or two later, I might find out, oh man, somebody else is making the same thing I did. And I would get pretty upset about that. And part of it was probably mostly practical reasons, like, oh, well, if theirs is out and mine's out, I might sell less, or I might get out to less people.
Yeah.
But the thought that they were wrong for doing that, I feel I was wrong about, if that's what I thought before. Nobody owns anything, and I think there's more than enough room in this hobby and in this industry for multiple versions of something.
Yeah, for sure.
Nobody gets all up in arms that Hot Toys is doing the new Batman, and so is InArt.
Right.
I'm just glad that you got choices.
Yeah, totally.
So I think that thing, if it happens to where two of them come out at a similar time, that can be unfortunate because it can hurt you a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
But the idea that the reason it happened was out of malice from one artist to that other artist, I think is just ridiculous. And I think there's far too much drama in the hobby regarding things like that in the first place. But
that's
so
excellent.
I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, man. No, and that makes a lot of sense. It really does.
Mm-hmm.
Jens, do you have anything else?
I think that you should just ask him the rapid fire questions now.
Rapid fire. Okay, Andy. So these are questions that are at the end of every podcast and episode that we do, and these are just rapid fire, and this is just to let people know more about you as a person, okay?
Okay, yep.
All right. Number 1, what is your favorite movie?
Oh my gosh. Halloween.
Damn, perfect.
Great movie.
All right, number 2, what is your favorite holiday?
Oh, Halloween. It's a tough one between Halloween and Christmas, but it's got to be Halloween.
All right. Number 3, Deadpool or Wolverine?
Deadpool. It's funny.
All right. That's good. Number 4, what did you want to be when you were a kid? Growing up, what did you want to be?
I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to do something with art when I was a kid. Yeah.
That's fair, and you're doing it, which is awesome. All right. So that leads into the next question. What profession or job would you never want to do?
Oh, what profession or job would I never want to do? Oh, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
I don't. The thing I didn't like about working, one of the things I didn't like about working with a vet was the people were mean. People were mean. So
Customer service related. Yeah.
yeah, customer. There you go.
There you
That's
go.
a good way to put it.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
You don't want to, dealing with angry people is just no fun.
Nope.
Nobody calls customer service to say great job.
Great job.
Right. That's true.
All right. This is question number 6. Xbox or PlayStation?
Xbox.
Okay. That was quick. Number 7. And this is my favorite. If you were a menu item at a restaurant, what would your entree be called?
Plain and simple.
Plain and simple.
I love it.
All right. That's a good dish. All right. Number 8. What's your favorite curse word?
Can I say it?
Sure.
I mean, the word I say, I got to be careful around my son. I get in trouble for saying it all the time, but I'm an F word kind of guy.
Me too. Me too. And when you're doing projects, that tends to fall out of your mouth
Oh,
sometimes.
I definitely yell F you to whatever messes up in front of me 4 times than I can count in a day. Yeah.
All right. Number 9. Do you have a zombie apocalypse escape plan?
Yes or no question? No, I don't have an escape plan.
All right. All right. No problem. And number 10. Sum up what you do in 3 words.
I make toys.
Perfect.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's
yeah,
perfect.
That's perfect.
This has been so wonderful. It's been really great to get to know you more, to give you the opportunity to chat, and for our listeners to be able to get to know you more. If people want to find out more about you, where can they find you? Website, Instagram, share with us your handles and all that.
Yeah. So I only have 2. I have a million people asking me if I have a website. I don't.
Okay.
It would make sense because the downside to Instagram and Facebook is everything you put pushes the last thing further down.
Yep.
So what I do have is Facebook. My Facebook page is Doggiedoc Designs, 3 separate words.
Okay.
And then my Instagram handle is @Doggiedoc, 1 word, _designs.
Okay.
I had a previous Instagram page that I had an issue with, so I had to start a new one. So you might find 2 versions of mine.
Okay.
But the one with the underscore is the one that's been active and going for the last couple of years now.
Okay. And if people want to get on your next run of something that you're doing, is that where they would sign up, or how does that process
Yeah.
work?
So I announce anything that I'm doing pretty much on my Instagram page. It's linked to my Facebook page, so anything that shows up there shows up there. And usually what I do is, like for the next Spaceball set, I put up a sort of a teaser image and said, be on the lookout in the next month.
Okay.
And so then usually what I'll do is I'll put up more informational posts that say, if you're interested, email me and I'll take down, or message me and I'll take down your email, and then I sort of form a mailing list for each given project.
Okay.
And then I tell people to be prepared on a certain date for the pre-order, and then I send out a pre-order email, and then it's a first come, first serve sort of deal. So the problem with my length of time of my projects is I have people who see what I'm making production run wise, and they're like, how do I get on that? And I'm like, well, that pre-order was 9 months ago, so it's all a matter of keeping an eye out, because as again, the problem with Instagram is if I put an information post up about a coming pre-order, it's going to be pushed down by me showcasing the next thing I'm doing anyway. So
Yeah.
But that's where, and that shows up on that Facebook page as well.
Excellent.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Andy. It's been awesome. And I hope that some more people come and follow you because of this.
That would be great, hopefully.
That's awesome. Yeah, you did good, man. Very, very cool.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks for listening. If you like this episode, please share the show. Share it on your social media and share it with your friends. We don't really care how you share it, just share the show. Until next time.